This podcast is proudly brought to you by the SiteShed's Naked Marketing segment, where we strip away the BS and try to figure out what's really going to work in your business. So Will and I basically have put this together as a way that we can add value to you guys out there in the marketplace, and it is open to you guys in the marketplace if you want us to have a look at your business. All you have to do is head across to iTunes or Stitcher if you're Android and leave us a lovely glowing review with a whole bunch of stars, and then we'll reach out to you guys and get you on the show. So anyway, that's all from me. Enjoy the show, enjoy the segment. This segment is also a YouTube playlist, which you can get hold of if you go to YouTube and you search the SiteShed. You'll be able to find the Naked Marketing playlist. The reason it's a playlist is because there's a lot of visual stuff that goes along with this audio, and if you want to check that out, then that's where you need to do it. So I will post links to that specific playlist in the show notes to this podcast, and you can go and check it out right there and then. Anyway, let's dive right in. Hello and welcome to this segment of Naked Marketing on the SiteShed. And today you're joining both Will and I on a phone discussion with Mr. Devon Tilley out of Mountain View Door and Window in the United States. Devon runs a fantastic business out of there, and Will and I have got him on the phone today to see what's going on from a marketing standpoint in his business, and then to see if there's any little things we may be able to help him with moving forward. So it was a fantastic recording. You can also head across to YouTube if you want to see the visuals. That is a playlist there. Links to it will be in the show notes. Anyway, that's enough for me. So let's dive into this phone discussion with Devon out of the USA, myself, and Will.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the SiteShed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello and welcome to Naked Marketing on the SiteShed, and we're joined today by Will from the SiteShed and our guest in the United States, Devon Tilley from Mountain View Window and Door. Welcome, gents.
Hello.
Hey.
How are we all?
Never been better, mate.
Right on. So for the listeners that are not familiar, Devon is located out of Denver in Colorado in the USA, and Will and I are both here in Sydney, Australia. And Devon has been a guest on the podcast before, which I'll post some links to in the show notes for this and the tags. However, Devon, going to give us a bit of a rundown as to Mountain View Windows and Doors, and maybe give us a little bit of a spill too. Devon, I know you run the Art of Construction podcast as well, so maybe give us a bit of a background on both.
Excellent. Well, actually, yeah, I have two sides of my business card, and I run the Art of Construction podcast that is specifically designed for contractors and architects to grow their business, which has kind of evolved into an informational platform where we're now doing videos and coaching and stuff that kind of evolves from turning on the microphone. But that came out of being a guest on a previous podcast that the whole time I've either worked for or now on the ownership side for 5.5 years in the supply chain industry. So I worked for the corporate side of things for 5 years, left that, went to work for a couple of my customers, bought one of them out, and have been growing and evolving the Mountain View Window and Door side of things. And I've always talked about marketing outside the box, and I really saw the podcast world and social media as a really fun way to get your word out and get educated and educate others along the way. So what started as just kind of a way to grow my business has evolved into really working on two businesses, the Art of Construction and Mountain View Window and Door.
Fantastic. So the purpose of today and the purpose of this segment is really just to have a look, I suppose, at what's going on in the business, and then for us to potentially help you ascertain maybe some ways that we can improve things like cost per lead and maybe the quality of the lead that's coming into the business and all those kind of things. So obviously you're running a business that's quite a high turnover. However, are the conversions as good as they could be? Well, maybe not. But the whole purpose of this segment, I suppose, is to see what we can come up with in that regard. Will is the resident marketing guru, and he is the co-founder in the Business Accelerator program that we've just developed. So we're sort of running this segment as a bit of a value add for all of our listeners and all of our followers, just so they can get a bit of an understanding as to what they may be potentially able to improve in their own business. So Will, anything you want to add to that?
I think you guys have got it pretty covered. Really excited to be jumping in, and this is a brand new segment. So if the wheels fall off and everything goes to crap, at least we'll have some fun, eh?
Yeah, you never know what happens when you try something new and you turn the mic on, right?
Yeah, that's it. Ready, fire, aim, as we like to say. All right, cool. Well, look, we've got some. I asked you guys to send across some info, just some general info in the space of figures and numbers and that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to run through a bit of that now. And we based it off the statistics for the previous month, which was April. You guys have sent through that you've got.
Hang on, Matt. Just bear with me 1 second, Matt. Hey, Devon. Just before we dive into the numbers and things like that, let me just ask you a quick question, just out of curiosity. So, you are you a window and door supplier, or do you service the end customer?
Yeah, we don't manufacture, so we are the manufacturer's rep. So product is manufactured elsewhere. We have a big showroom, so we're the showroom dealer for the Anderson family of brands. So we have 10,000 square foot in our main location and a secondary location that's just a big showroom that showcases all the products. And then our trusted advisors meet with our ideal customers, which is the trade, contractors, architects, and project designers. And then their homeowners come in and make sure everything's right and put that package together for windows, doors, and hardware.
Okay, cool. So in a sense, I guess you would be a subcontractor to builders and architects?
Yeah, and we're in the States, they really call us a dealer or a supplier, of the products, but we also install in-house as well. So we will be a subcontractor to the general contractor, or you guys, I think, would call them a tradie, installing the product on the job site.
Okay, perfect. You're very well versed in Australian as well.
Yeah, it's been so fun having I actually did a recording with a 24-year-old yesterday on the Art of Construction, Masami, that is, reached out on the message board. He's in Toronto, Ontario. And we talked about you guys, about how it's just so fun to hear how taking the whole world from him and what they call things in Canada and you guys in Australia and us here in Denver. So it's fun, and you learn from each other and get new perspectives and conversation points.
No doubt about it, eh?
Yeah, and I moved to Denver from Fargo, North Dakota.
Oh, whoa!
And so the first 3 years of college, it was always, "Where are you from?" Fargo, the movie, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but how they talk's a bit different as well. Eh?
So yeah.
So let's get going here, huh?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's get into it, Matt. Take us away with the numbers.
All right. So for April, we've got you've had 72 leads come in, which sounds relatively good. But then if we look at the conversion number, so we've had 35 of those leads have turned into open estimates, which sounds pretty good to me, right, Will?
Yeah, that looks really good. So
and then out of those 35 open estimates, 5 of them have been closed. Now we should clarify, Will, as well, that the Devon's product is quite a long sales cycle product. Like, it's not like he's selling block drains. So I suppose one thing I would like to get into in this segment is we want to talk maybe about some ways that he can potentially nurture, those customers or those leads that are not yet potentially ready to purchase. However, in 1, 2, 3 years' time may well be. So they've closed 5 of them, totaling about 93 grand or so. Devon, where did these leads come from?
Well, the podcast and other tools like that is a big part of the global and timeless view that then kind of pulls it all through with all kinds of different details. And one thing I'd like to first talk about is 72 leads and 35 are conversions. That means we actually did an estimate for them.
Right.
And that's right where I want it to be, because about half of the leads that come in, we're actually doing what we call the needs analysis and telling them that we're not the right fit for them right off the bat.
Okay, cool.
And so that's a big thing for us, is that is actually, right where I would want to be. And I appreciate you guys asking me to provide this information, because, everybody goes through these, you go through day to day and you have your CRM tools or whatever you do to do your stuff. But then, there's nothing like a deadline and a conversation that makes you think about it. So my IT guy and I talked about it to say, when really is that conversion, and how you classify it as winner or losing. Right now, it's done by doing an estimate.
Yeah.
But the ones that we don't do an estimate for, we really need to have to look at those close and say, from the needs analysis, when we said we're not the right fit. And the one thing that as I really talk with other people through the art of construction and run my day-to-day business, the key thing at the beginning is to talk price early and often and be ready to say no quick. Because if you can get rid of them right off the bat, you're not wasting time down the line of estimates and all that kind of stuff. And like you mentioned before, it's a long sales cycle. What we do is my company focus on high-end custom residential homes that we work with an architect for a year to design, and then they select a builder that could go for a year. So it's average 2 to 3 years from when a quote-unquote lead comes in. And when that lead comes in, it could be just a homeowner deciding if they're even going to build a house, or if they're an architect, all those different ways, and we classify those under our ideal customers to categorize those leads. So that's what I would talk about on the number of leads. And back to your initial question of how those leads come in, the website is the hub, but then the podcast, word of mouth, we call them trusted advisors, are the key to our business. And they're going out and planting seeds with architects to have that grow, as well as all the other videos and podcasts and, all those things we do that bring web to lead conversions.
So are you currently doing any paid marketing? Are you running Facebook ads or Google ads or anything like that?
We have done a couple, but we have not been successful at that. So that's been a big push on our marketing side, is to say, well, I'd love your guys' feedback on that. But what I'm being told is that you got to commit and put a plan together and do it regularly with a plan. And we've kind of done it sporadic. So it hasn't worked real well for us up to this point. But other members of my tribe that I've met, other business owners, have been very successful with that. So we're putting a big emphasis on video and going to have those videos that work well to pay to those videos to then help drive that as our plan.
Because those videos you're putting together, I noticed you've developed a YouTube channel, right?
Correct.
And are those videos there as like a lead magnet, or is it like a case study sort of scenario? Like, what's the purpose of those videos?
Yeah, again, it's a two-prong approach from the art of construction side as well as my company, Mountain View Window and Door. We have 2 YouTube channels. We have one that's the art of construction that is just all thing construction. And that's where you really see the dream shots of the whole thing that goes through everything on construction. And then we have MVTV that are specific videos about windows, doors, and hardware. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to attract the homeowner to just see the glamour shots, but then we want to have contractors and architects take a deeper dive on those corner sections and details. So we're trying to factor that all in and to say how we set up the demographics and regions and how we put those videos out is kind of where where we're at on that portion of marketing.
Okay, cool. Will, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm just playing around a little bit on the back and looking at the website, looking at the video. So everything you're saying makes a lot of sense, and my gears are turning in terms of how we can actually get more leads coming in. So look, just from what you've said though, if you were to wanting to get new leads in, would you be, if you were to go into the cold and to find people who would be potential clients or potential ideal clients, what would that ideal client look like? Would it be a homeowner who's looking to rebuild, or would that be an architect, or what would that client look like?
Yeah, I'd answer that by saying we're looking for quality, not quantity. So we're trying to hit the bullseye, not just throwing darts at the wall. And who is that bullseye? It starts by the architect. And so the architect, we want them to spec the products we represent through Mountain View Window and Door. So it's kind of confusing because we don't manufacture things. So we would like them in a perfect world to spec Andersen windows supplied and installed by Mountain View Window and Door. Now that's dream world, and it typically doesn't work that way. But the whole idea is begin with the end in mind, but have it right on paper up front with our products. So now we don't have to go through and get the spec changed. So that's a big part of the education up front. But then have the builder and have our trusted advisors have relationships with the builder to have the builder want to bring their client in, or if it's a spec builder, investor, so on and so forth. So we call it the golden triangle, to where it's all about the contractor, the architect, and the homeowner, with people in the middle, the project designers, the dealers, all that kind of stuff. So our initial focus is to the architect to answer your question.
Can I just jump in here for a second? With these leads that are coming in currently, so most of them are coming in either through your referral partners or organically through the website somehow or other. Maybe they've seen the podcast or they've maybe seen a YouTube ad and they jump onto the website and they approach you through there. How many of these people that are coming to you, so out of these 72 leads, in your opinion, are they obviously you've got 35 open estimates out of it, but do you consider those people, is the conversation you're having with them what you would consider qualified? Do they know enough about the business? Do they know enough about what your offering is? And, or do you have to go through that whole sort of conversation with them?
The leads that we get are done by the, basically our quote unquote call center, but it's not outsourced. It's employees internally.
Yeah.
So in our CRM tool, they basically have a script and a list of questions that they're gathering that information. Now, what I'm really trying to do is to also get my trusted advisors to put that in as a lead so then we can track the conversions better. They go right into the customer. So a lot of things that I'm telling you right now is a little bit broken in our system because the ideal leads are already just going right in as estimates. So that conversion is missing in our tool. And that's where you learn as a company that I've only been at this for 5.5 years. And the company I bought was a little company that was managed on an Excel spreadsheet and did the invoicing through QuickBooks, and I've been evolving and growing as I can and building that stuff up. But there's definitely holes in the system that we need to get refined, and that's what we're in the middle of doing.
Yeah, I'm seeing some opportunity here for like a qualification funnel. Will, would you agree?
Look, yeah. Well, first of all, yes, I'd agree. But taking it even like a step back, my thinking is, look, it sounds like this is more of a business-to-business play, so more of a B2B play rather than going straight to consumer. So, I mean, there's a lot of information out there where people talk about how am I going to get on Facebook and things like that. But I think B2B is actually a lot easier because you know exactly who you're targeting. If you know exactly who you're targeting, then all we have to do is craft a message for you to get in front of the right people and then bring them back into your business. So, we were talking about things like Google ads, Facebook ads, things like that, but I think it's even easier, to be honest. I think if you used a good outreach campaign, and what we typically like to do with cold outreach is going through emails. If you had a good message that you can present to 10, 20, 50 architects who are potentially already serving who are already serving clients, I think that would be a good way to get more of them into your business, because one of these leads or one of these referral partners could be worth a lot of money and have a lot of clients that they send through.
Love it. And the content, we've kind of already done that, but I don't know if we've done it in a mass or the right way, is that we do 2 yearly trips where we go back to the manufacturing plants of Anderson, going back to you got to buy right to sell right. So they're providing us great leads. But then, so it's actually next week, we'll be taking 38 customers and trusted advisors back to Bayport, Minnesota, that Mountain View and Anderson pays for the whole trip. And we spend 3 days with contractors, architects, and my trusted advisors. And we leave there knowing them as customers, but we come back as friends. And we're actually bringing the art of construction this year on the trip, and we're going to be recording it and making testimonials. And that would be a good funnel to send something out to people that may not be aware of it, because architects, they need to get their credits. Well, you get 10 credits of the 18 you need on this yearly flyback. So you have fun. We tour Frank Lloyd Wright's house. You see the manufacturing. You see the latest and greatest stuff. I'm one of 10 dealers in the nation on Anderson's advisory council. So I'm friends with the people that run Anderson. So they get to meet the CEOs and the people that run that organization. So that's been, I think, one of our secret sauces too. At the end of the day, it's all about relationships, but utilizing tools and technology to build that up. So there's a page on our website, but then it's currently all about the trusted advisors. But I think we should do an outreach program outside of that to pull more stuff in through that based on what you're talking about.
Yeah, cool. So what I might do is I might spend a few minutes actually talking about just a general way of setting up the outreach, if that's okay with you guys. I might just go a little bit deeper into, kind of messaging platforms and things like that. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Love it.
Cool. So look, with outreach, what a lot of people do and what a lot of people do really, really wrong is they make it all about them. So, your outreach, if you do it wrong, you might be reaching out to architects and saying, hey, we're a supplier of windows and doors. We've been in the game for, our brand's been in the game for 30 years. We've supplied $5 million worth of doors in the past year, something like that. But that's typically how 90% of outreach campaigns I've seen kind of work. And, the numbers are really, really bad on that. So the outreach that I like to run and the outreach that we run for our clients, which is way more effective, makes it all about them. So you had some really good points you talked about, taking architects away on a bit of a conference, but having fun as well. The fact that they have to do training every year and they'll get more than half the points they need just from coming on this trip. And also the fact that they're going to build a great network. So what you can do is if you do 2 of these trips a year, or I'll focus on the trips first, and then we can segment into how you can do regular events. But if you do 2 of these trips a year, what I suggest doing is finding maybe 5 to 10 of leads who are people that you really want to do business with, or your ideal clients in terms of architects, and framing a message around, hey, we've got a conference coming up for architects where we're going to take you away, and you're going to learn a lot about about what's happening in the industry, what's changing. We're going to be able to tour a facility. And you're going to get all your training points. We're going to have fun, and it's all expenses paid. Is this something that would be of interest for you? So you're not trying to close them right then and there with the outreach, but all you're trying to do is get a conversation going where they become aware of you, aware of your business, and the fact that that you are looking to help, and you are kind of partners with them as well. Does that kind of make sense?
Yep.
Is that something that you guys do currently, Devon?
Yeah, we're going June 7th through the 9th. So
sorry. I meant in terms of the outreach. Like, how do you currently approach people that come on these trips?
Yeah, so it's part of the relationship building, and like Will had talked, it's really they don't have anything else to talk about. Use the architect flyback as the lead-in. And we first only did it for architects, but now we do it for builders as well. So if there's nothing else to talk about, you can always tell them about the trip and use the website, and we're going to make a video. You always want to have something in your back pocket to talk about that's a value to them, not about you, land. Put them, put them in a reason to why they want to continue a conversation with you.
So to the people that come on these trips, like historically, previously, are they people that have you approached those people, or have they come through Anderson, or where do these people come from?
Yeah, we've built them all by going to firms. One architect goes on and then tells another one about it. So Other people are kind of being sales reps for us, or other trusted advisors in the field. And then we do Bayport, which is the mothership, the biggest manufacturing facility in the States. And then if they go to the next level, we take them to the E-Series plant, which is their high-end plant. So we take them to the mothership the first year, and then the next year we invite them on the follow-up trip. So the 2 trips a year, and this has been evolving. And the thing I'd tell people listening is that the best ideas are stolen in a lot of cases. And me being, I talk on the Art of Construction all the time about your advisory council. And I simply asked Anderson if they'd be okay if I were to start an advisory council. And the whole concept behind that was to get other dealers or other people like me around the country that are not competing to be able to share ideas and exchange information. I asked them about that, and they said 2 weeks later, I get an email back from the top of Anderson. They're like, we were forming that, and I got invited to be on that group just by asking the question, and everyone else is 3rd generation, the biggest dealers in the country, and then I'm just the little engine that is asking questions and asking to be part of the tribe. Nice. So now, from that, one of the dealers out of Texas, he's the biggest Anderson dealer, the Mirror Gallery, Rod and his team's just amazing. At the dealer council, I asked him the same question you're asking me, and he said, hands down the flyback. This year will be our 15th. And I said, hey, can we join you? And so we brought 16. There was 50 of us all in the first year. We learned everything, and it was just phenomenal. So that would just be a thing I would add on, just talk to people like we're doing here today, but then actually create a system where you can peel back the onion and talk about it to make it better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Will?
Matt, how much time have we got left?
We've got about 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to go through 2 ideas very quickly in the next 5 minutes that you might be able to take and implement straight away to try and see more traction, or at least to build your network and get more referrals in.
Thank you.
So the first idea is, and you actually touched on this, you were the fact that people's networks, and the fact that people, most businesses have an advisory council, whether they call it that or not, and it's just a network of their closest work associates. So if you're taking clients, if you're taking people you already have a relationship with to these flyback events, one idea that I've got for you is maybe you can ask everyone you're bringing along, look, it is a free event. It's paid by the supplier, and it's going to be a great event with lots of value to you. Who do you know, or who do you really like that you want to bring on this trip that's going to see value as well, and that's going to give more value back to the group? So when you ask the question, people are automatically, they're going to know at least one or two people who they think might be a good fit as well. And that's a really easy way of building the network very quickly, bringing more people along on the trip and building the relationship with what we call your kind of second level network. So the second idea that I had as well was if events are working well, if the flyback's working well, what you can do in once you get back from it, and not just 2 times a year, is, and this is a bit of a secret strategy that we run for the site shed and trading web guides as well, is we create events around not specifically around us, but we create events around our market. So, for example, Devon, if you want to work with more architects, what you can do is host a monthly breakfast where you invite 5 to 10 architects that you want to work with in your area. And during the breakfast, you cover off a topic that architects want to learn about. So, because you've got the podcast, that's a great way as well to kind of segment that. And what you're going to say is, hey, there's 5 to 10 architects in the room, and I think you're all leaders in the market in our area. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and learn about this topic, and I'm going to pay for breakfast. It's only going to be for an hour, and you get to network with your potentially competitors, but it's a big market, so just network with your peers, exchange ideas, and then what you can do is at the end of that, because you're the one who put the event together, because you're the one who's pulled everyone together and taught some of the pieces of that, it becomes very easy to transition into more of a one-to-one relationship. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and I'm a visionary leader that tries everything. So part of it is learning how to say no. I actually have that event tomorrow that I call it the Full Life Perspective, which is a presentation that is not about selling windows and doors. It's about setting your goals, and it's a tool I put together called the Time Relationship Chart. The problem is it's just not resonating to our ideal customers. So people that come, it's finding the right, again, what's in it for them to want to join that. So,
Yep. And look, with these events, I think the most important part is finding a topic that the architects would be interested in. And it might not necessarily be you teaching the event too. So if architects, you have to think about, what do the architects care about? Do they care about getting more leads? Do they care about working with the local government and regulations? Or what is it that they really care about and they think about on a daily basis? So if you can form a monthly event around that, and even get someone else to come in and talk to them about that, then that actually elevates your authority within the market, and it builds a lot of trust between you and your potential leads.
Will, could you do something similar to that in the online space? I mean, Devon's pretty active in YouTube videos and obviously running the podcast and things like that. What if you had like some sort of elite group, the elite architects of Colorado or something like that, where he just created content specifically for them and drew collaboration from within that group alone?
Yeah, I mean, you could very easily start your own Facebook group, so a closed Facebook group, and invite people in. So that would be one way to take the conversation online. And again, if you did that, then you can talk to them on a daily basis and provide value to them on a daily basis, which is obviously, it's always very good to be talking to potential leads every single day.
Yeah, one idea I just had is I actually I started it, and now my managing advisor from Mountain View runs it for me, and we call it Elite Industry Partners. So it's a group of 12 other dealers, a fireplace dealer, a closet dealer, a appliance, that they sell to the same customers as us, but they sell other boutique items. So we meet monthly, and everybody brings one customer that they know and one that they want, and we just talk about it. And then we go back out. We could put something together like that with architects as well, and we could do it now virtually with my connections with the Art of Construction and Anderson, so on and so forth.
That could be powerful because, I mean, the event things are good. However, people, like we find, especially in Sydney, like, when you've got things like traffic.
And architects just don't like to get out of they like to sit behind their computer.
Yeah. So yes, I mean, I agree with Will. I think like those live events are great. There's nothing like building relationships, in person. However, it's good to also cater for people that may not be able to get to that specific event, which is where it gets pretty powerful when you can take it online. And I suppose the good thing as well about, any of those approaches, you do create a certain level of scarcity. So, if you're inviting people into an elite group, then, it does sort of have that appeal to it. Like, it's not like, oh, well, anyone can join it. If you're personally inviting them and saying, hey, this is what we're going to be going through, this is why I want you to be part of it, you're sort of buffering up their ego a little bit as well and making them want to be part of that community. And why wouldn't they want to be part of that community if it's going to be adding value through one way or another? And that's a good idea, what you said there. We know with your elite industry group, it's effectively strategic partners. I've grown my entire business basically through strategic partnerships, and it's very powerful if it's done correctly. And I think that's a pretty smart way to do it if you leveraged it properly.
Cool.
Anything else there, Will?
I think we're on time. So I've got a million and one ideas, but
yeah, that's pretty. When I think expressive guys like us, man, we could talk all day about that kind of stuff. And I think you need to make time to do it, but you also have to make time, working on the business and in the business. So it's a fine line.
Yeah, and by the sounds of it, you've kind of got a few of these things, if not in full steam. You've got a few wheels in motion there anyway, so it probably wouldn't take a huge amount of effort in order to implement something like that. And it's probably better that we don't dive into too many things because, if we talk too much, we sort of lose track of. It's better to talk about one thing and implement it than talk about 10 and implement none, so.
Yeah, and I think you got to keep trying things, but you can't try everything. You got to find a few things and run with it. And it's the evolution of everything, and the only constant is change. But you got to be able to have your tribe give it enough time to set in. That's one of my problems as an expressive. I'm always like next thing. Well, you haven't given a chance for the last thing to take legs.
Yeah.
So it's balancing all that. I'm the 10X guy. Grant Cardone is go the next thing. But you do got to make, don't expect what you don't inspect, and give it time to grow.
Yeah, exactly right. So I suppose just in summary quickly, we talked about cold outreach. So, an effective cold outreach campaign, that's been scripted correctly would certainly work in your favor. Whether or not you have that currently, I'm not sure, but that's something that you could possibly put some effort and work into. Developing some sort of educational sequence, to people that come back positive with that campaign, that would certainly be a great way to get them engaged and get them potentially from there into that elite industry group that you've already sort of have wheels in motion of setting up. So that's probably a pretty good framework. Will, would you add anything to that?
No, look, with all the frameworks that we talk about and all the ideas, it really comes down to execution, because we can have the best ideas, but as soon as you present the ideas to the market or you take it to market and action it, you might find that you're completely wrong, or you might find that you've just struck gold. Right. And you just won't really know until you actually put it into plan, get it in front of people and get the responses and feedback.
Cool. Yeah, one other thing, I know you want to end, but on the art of construction side, Anderson Windows is hired art of construction to help them launch a new door system they're developed. So what I did for that is I went on to LinkedIn and they're 10,000 employees and connected with a bunch of their sales reps in LinkedIn. And it was amazing. Just in this week, I've connected with 200 people, and they're now listening to the podcast. And again, don't expect what you don't inspect. Don't just assume Anderson's going to tell them about it and expect it to work. So I think that's another tool, is that you got to kind of hit it from both sides. And LinkedIn on the B2B side, I think, is a great tool.
Yeah. If you can find a way of filtering through the spammers, then I find LinkedIn is pretty good as well.
Just on that too, I think we might have to do a whole little series on LinkedIn, because when we first started the business, a lot of it came from using LinkedIn effectively. So that might be a whole little sequence that we do as well. But that's something we can play around with in the future anyway.
Cool.
All right. Awesome.
Well, hopefully I've given you guys something helpful.
Well, hopefully we'll give you something helpful. And what we'll do is we'll put this in writing as well, and we'll flick it across to you and maybe give you a bit of an idea of what we spoke about, so you can take it to the powers that be and see if they've got a way of implementing. And we look forward to following up and see how it all went.
Yeah, much appreciated. I love getting new perspectives that I'll have everybody listen back to it on my end, and I'll let you know what we've taken to the next level from this however you want me to give you that information back on your end too.
Yeah, right on. Well, anyway, regardless, we'll get you this audio, and if you can do whatever you want with it as well. So, all right, cool. Let's wrap that up. Thanks for your time, Devon. Good to chat again, mate. And Will, good work.
Great to meet you, Devon.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
See you later, mate.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.